The hollow beneath. The first thing Daniel noticed about Blackreach wasn't the silence. It was the smell. Not rot. Not decay. Something older. Like wet stone sealed in darkness for centuries. The town had been nearly abandoned since the mine collapsed in 1987. Officially, it was deemed unstable. Unofficially, people said it was cursed. Daniel didn't believe in curses. He believed in stories. And stories were why he came. Daniel was a documentary filmmaker specializing in forgotten places. His last film, about a shuttered asylum, had done moderately well online. Blackreach was supposed to be his breakthrough. A ghost town with a sealed mine. 32 miners dead. 7 bodies never recovered. Perfect. He parked his SUV near the broken welcome sign, camera mounted to his shoulder, drone packed in his bag. The mountains loomed overhead like folded shadows. Only one house still showed signs of life. Yellow porch light. Smoke from chimney. Daniel hesitated before knocking. The door creaked open before he touched it. A thin woman in her late 60s stood there, eyes pale and unfocused but disturbingly alert. "You shouldn't film here," she said before he spoke. "Mrs. Halpern?" Daniel asked. "I emailed you." She studied him. "You're the one who thinks this is about tragedy." Daniel smiled politely. "That's usually what these things are about." She leaned closer. "It isn't tragedy. It's hunger." The mine entrance sat a mile north, surrounded by warped fencing and rusted signs that read, "Danger, unstable ground." Daniel set up his camera. "This is the Blackreach mining site," he narrated. "Closed after a catastrophic tunnel failure in 1987. The cause was never fully determined." A low hum interrupted him. He stopped. Wind, he thought. Except there was no wind. The hum was rhythmic. Almost like breathing. He turned toward the sealed shaft. Concrete had been poured into the entrance decades ago. It was cracked now. Hairline fractures running like veins. From one of the cracks, dark moisture seeped. He crouched closer. The moisture pulsed. Not dripping. Pulsing. As if something on the other side pressed against it. Daniel stepped back. The hum stopped. That night, in his rented cabin, Daniel reviewed the footage. Everything looked normal. Except for one frame. Just one. At 14:22 minutes into his mind recording, static flickered across the screen. The image distorted. Behind him, in the sealed mine entrance. A shape. Tall. Unnaturally thin. Hair brushing the top of the tunnel ceiling. He froze the frame. The shape had no defined features. Just density. Like shadow condensed into form. And it was leaning toward him. Daniel's heart pounded. "I must have missed someone in the background," he muttered. But he knew there had been no one. He enhanced the brightness. The shape wasn't emerging from the mine. It was inside the concrete. Embedded. Watching. The next morning, Daniel returned to Mrs. Halpern. "You ever hear noises from the mine?" he asked casually. She stared at him for a long time. "They drilled too deep," she said. "For coal?" No, her voice thinned. "For something older." She poured tea with trembling hands. They found a cavity. Natural stone. Smooth. Like it had been carved. Daniel leaned forward. "A chamber. A throat." He laughed nervously. She didn't. The man said the walls moved when they weren't looking. Tools vanished. Lights dimmed. One miner swore he heard whispering. And the collapse? There was no collapse. The words settled like ice. They sealed it because something came true. Daniel broke into the town records office that night. All newspapers confirmed 32 deaths. But the mine roster listed 39 workers present that day. 7 unaccounted for. No explanation. No memorial. As if they had never existed. He searched further. A handwritten note in the margins of an incident report caught his eye. They were not crushed. They were taken below. The ink had been smeared violently afterward. Daniel's skin prickled. Below what? That night he dreamed of the mine. He stood at its entrance, but the concrete seal was gone. The tunnel yawned open. Dark. Wet. Breathing. A voice echoed from deep within. Come back. Not threatening. Inviting. Daniel woke up gasping. His room smelled like damp stone. His boots, placed by the door, were coated in black sludge. When Daniel returned to the mine, the fracture in the concrete had widened. Not by inches. By feet. The center sagged inward, as though hollowed from behind. He approached slowly. The hum returned. Stronger now. Vibrating through his teeth. He aimed his flashlight into the widening gap. The beam revealed stone walls descending steeply downward. But they weren't jagged like normal rock. They were smooth. Polished. Organic. Like the inside of a rib cage. Something shifted far below. Daniel swallowed. I'm just documenting, he whispered to himself. He stepped inside. The air grew warmer as he descended. Thicker. The walls glistened. His boots stuck slightly with each step. The hum transformed into whispers. Layered voices overlapping in soft murmur. He caught fragments. Still here. Hungry. Empty. He nearly turned back. Nearly. But then he saw them. Handprints. Embedded in the stone. Human hands, pressed into the walls as if the rock had once been soft. Some small. Some large. 32. No. More. The tunnel opened into a vast cavity. Daniel's flashlight beam struggled to find the ceiling. The chamber was spherical. Perfectly smooth. At its center stood something vertical. A pillar. No. A spine. Curved vertebrae rising from the floor, fused with the stone. And around it, figures. Thin shapes attached to the walls like shadows peeled from bodies. Dozens. They turned toward him simultaneously. Not with faces, but with awareness. The hum stopped. Silence crashed down. One of the shapes detached. It stepped forward. It was impossibly tall, limbs elongated, movements slightly delayed as though reality lagged behind it. Daniel stumbled backward. Stay back. The shape tilted its head. And Daniel felt a memory not his own flood into him. Darkness. Pressure. Stone folding like flesh. Being swallowed. The collapse had never buried them. The chamber had consumed them. The spine in the center pulsed. Slow. Massive. Daniel realized with dawning horror. The chamber wasn't a cave. It was a body. Ancient. Buried. Dormant until drilled open. The miners hadn't uncovered a void. They had pierced something alive. The shape in front of him extended a limb. It brushed his forehead. And he saw centuries. This thing had slept beneath the mountain long before Black Ridge existed. It fed rarely. But when wounded, it fed well. Mrs. Halpern watched from her porch as the ground trembled faintly. She had been a child when the mine opened. Her father had been one of the 7. She knew the truth. The town hadn't been abandoned because of fear. It had been emptied as an offering, to keep it sated. But hunger grows. She saw dust rise from the mountain. The seal was broken. Daniel tried to run, but the ground beneath him softened. His boots sank into the fleshy stone. Hands pressed outward from the walls, gripping him gently but firmly. Not violent. Welcoming. The tall shape leaned close. Where its face should have been, the air distorted. And Daniel understood. It didn't want bodies. It wanted perspective. Experience. Sight. It wanted to see the surface world again. Through him. Pain erupted in his skull. Memories poured out: childhood, film school, his first camera, heartbreak, ambition. All consumed. His scream echoed only briefly before being absorbed. His body stiffened, thinned, lengthened. The chamber pulsed with satisfaction. Days later, hikers passing near Black Ridge noticed something odd. The mine entrance stood fully open. Concrete scattered outward like broken shell. Inside, darkness breathed. A figure stood at the threshold. Tall. Thin. Holding a camera. Its lens reflected sunlight. It stepped into the forest. Movements slightly wrong. Delayed. Learning. Above, the mountain exhaled. The hunger had found eyes again. And this time, it could walk.